Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller, Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness Podcast. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube or wherever you're getting this episode. It helps. It just does. This episode and the whole season of the Midtown Madness is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Pete, I had a chance to visit the Two Men in a Garden HQ. We knew Two Men supported our local Billikens, but did you know they support local businesses? Part of their HQ is also running Kitchen Hub STL. Local chefs and food product developers can rent space to run their kitchen out of Two Men in a Garden headquarters. So local chefs, they can go in and they can work on their product development and distribution in these kitchen spaces, a shared office space, so to speak. While I was there, I snagged a couple of local pizza seasonings, as well as the Cantina style salsa and Harissa sauce. I'm really excited to try the Harissa sauce. I haven't yet. But if you're just here for the salsa, you can pick up their many products at any local grocery stores or online at twomeninthegarden.com. Follow them on social at Two Men Salsa on Insta and Twitter. And check out their website to find out more about Kitchen Hub STL. I think it's a really cool deal they run. Pete, first off, we really messed up last episode.
We did. We got to shout out our contest winners a little earlier. I think we got to both you and I forgot, and and we do apologize.
Yes. Our giveaway, our 19-9 giveaway winner is Tim Steck at TSteck3 on Instagram. He won the shorts and gym bag. We hope to do more giveaways, whether it be Two Men in the Garden salsa or any sort of merchandise we can get our hands on to give away.
We both dropped the ball on that. And if you listened all the way to the end last week, you heard it. But yeah, we got to do that up top next time. So congrats, Tim. Hope you're enjoying the stuff. I think you got there on Friday.
Oh, great. Take a Instagram, tag us on that, Tim.
Yeah.
No, we're going to have to get to women's soccer, and we're going to have to do it first. Not necessarily get out of the way, but it was the most important game of the weekend in the athletic department. And also, I want to shout out before we get into the meat and potatoes, like all the families, of the women on the team that, I know one of their parents, and he introduced me to a few of them. So it was really great to meet all of them this weekend, and congratulations to raising great athletes and great daughters, honestly, that represent St. Louis so well. But Saturday, not what we hoped for, Peter.
No, it wasn't. And I'm still reeling from this one. I didn't watch it under ideal circumstances. We took a little family road trip, an hour up the road to Yellow Springs, Ohio, and just kind of kicked around for the day. Unfortunately, it was snowing here, as I know it was in St. Louis a little bit. And so here I am. I watched most of the game from my phone. We were, the kids and my wife and I, we're camped out at a table at a brewery, basically, and I had my phone propped up against my water bottle, watching it while the kids played stuff we just bought them at a little toy store. So it wasn't ideal circumstances, but I figured I would have another chance. I thought, well, this will only be the first game. The rest of the games that they play in the NCAA tournament, I'll have under much better circumstances. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and this was it. But I got to say, I mean, my heart was pounding the whole time during this game, man, and it was hard to watch this one tick down to the end, knowing that we probably weren't going to get this. The game tying goal, and yeah, I don't know, man. I just haven't felt the same since.
Well, going back to the selection show, it was on Monday the 7th. Defending national championship, Florida State was the first team announced as the 1 seed. The 2 seed were the Billikens in that region. It suggests that SIUE was number 8 overall. It was an interesting draw, Pete. I think a lot of my initial reaction on our Twitter account was a bit of naivety in a lot of ways as it pertains to Memphis. I thought I was like, oh, I kind of was like, oh, well, they'll give us an opponent fitting of a 2 seed. That really wasn't the case. If you look up the bracket, and I Shields said it, and we'll get into that later in the episode. But she mentioned, I mean, there's SIUE, there's Missouri State. Those are teams that lost like 6 and 7-0 in their first round matches to seeds that are lower than us. Memphis is just better than those two teams. And I was looking past them. I fell into that trap.
Yeah, I was too. And look, Memphis would be a top half team in the A10. They probably wouldn't have finished like second this year. But they would have been in that tier with like Dayton and VCU and a couple other teams as like solid teams. I think their RPI was 77 heading into the tournament. Which again, like if we're talking about SLU as being the number 8 team overall in the tournament, logic has it that they're about 8 from the bottom. And out of 64, it doesn't quite seem right, because you've got a lot of auto bids coming from really small conferences.
I think Memphis, it's 32 teams though, but yeah, I think Memphis was 40 or something similar. They were close to they were on the tail end, the very tail end of the RPI. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So Memphis is much better than an opponent that a 2 seed should expect to draw.
Well, my point is there's 64 teams in the tournament, right?
I think there's 32. There's only 32, unless they upped it.
Yeah. Okay. So as you're saying that, well, if SLU's coming 8 from the top, then the team we're playing, you would think goes 8 up from the bottom, right? Like if we're just doing this completely linear. And I know there are other considerations. They're trying not to keep teams in the same conference together, and they keep things a little more regional.
That doesn't even follow though. That doesn't even track, because SIUE and Missouri State, those are 2 teams I mentioned that are in the tournament that would have been more regional.
Yeah, but be that as it may, Memphis is still 4 hours away, so they're relatively close. It's not like some of the other seats in their neighborhood, like a Fairleigh Dickinson or something like that, that's not close.
Right.
That's not close by. So, yeah. Anyway, by the way, yeah, it is 64, Zach.
Is it real? Wait, so how do you have only 8 seeded teams? Like, I don't.
They only seed 8 teams in each region.
Yeah,
and then they have 8.
That confused me because I was thinking.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking 8. Yeah, never mind.
Right. In which case, Memphis would have had a 7 by their name, right? If SLU were a 2. Yeah. So anyway, Memphis is in the the quote unquote bottom half of this, the unseeded team. So my point was, they're in the neighborhood of like, if the committee is looking at the whole field of 64, Memphis is somewhere around the 56 mark, like the 57, like that area is where they are. And that is just not at all the case. And and we can get into this in a little bit.
Oh, we're going. Yeah, where you're going.
I wonder if this was part of the muted reaction that we saw from the team and the staff when they were announced, because like they got the 2 seed and we knew they'd be right on that line as there's number 8 in the RPI. So, but they didn't have much of a reaction. They just kind of clapped.
Yeah. And you wondered if it was, I think in the excitement, I think you could read that as, okay, it's just all business, a very business-like reaction. Okay, we expect a 2 seed, but I think, looking back, it might have not exactly.
That's how you and I interpreted it.
Yes.
But then Coach Shields comes on and with us a couple days later says, Memphis is not one of the teams we planned for, because they're going through all of the scenarios. Who were like you said, she mentioned SIUE, Missouri State, some of the other regional teams that they knew would be in that neighborhood, and Memphis just was not one of the teams that they kind of mapped out. So then they had to scramble and put together a scout. None of this is to say like Memphis didn't know they were going to get SLU either. They probably thought something different as well, but I guess my point is that may have been that reaction.
Yeah. Let's get into the game. Took place at was it 1:00 on Saturday? Saturday the 12th. It was a 1-0 loss against Memphis, the NCAA tournament first round. The Billikens entered this game ranked number 8 in the United Soccer Coaches Poll, number 4 by College Soccer News, and number 8 by Top Drawer Soccer. Last week they were 10-5-10. Memphis got on the board late, well, semi-late anyway, 64th minute. Sorla Miller, assisted by Maya Jones. Jones was in traffic, finally caught it clearing. Crossed it to Miller, who lunged forward and finished it off the outside of her right foot, tucked it just past Piracelli, who was right up on her. It felt like that U.S. women's national team where was it against Brazil, where the goal kind of lobbed over and Hope Solo just looked like she had no idea what to do with it. And just it went right over her head in the side netting. Kind of a similar one here.
It's always unexpected when the approach is kind of like it was with this player, I guess, Miller. She had her right knee way up, right? So where she caught this ball and she got it on the fly, and she's coming in toward the, if you're facing the goal, she's on the left post basically. And the cross would have probably just skipped a little past the left post. She hits it off her right foot, which is her inside foot, but off the outside of her right foot, which is to the inside of the net. And Piracelli was right up on her. I mean, just like a foot or two away from her. And did it go between her? Did it go between her legs, or
it might
just
have
past the?
It might have. It's just a very awkward situation for a goalie. And yes. I mean, you can probably at the end of the day say Piracelli could have come out on that one.
Maybe. I mean, it was
doesn't
point blank.
Often have to. That's the thing. And I think, it could contribute to that. Piracelli does a wonderful job staying engaged in the game when SLU is absolutely dominating and she's not seeing shots. But there are certain things like coming out and getting the ball. You put so much, you rely so much on your defense throughout the entire game that you're just going to you couldn't fall into that where oh, my defense is superior, they'll handle this. Right. So again, I don't know if I can falter on this, but anytime those crosses come in that close to, the goalie, it's going to be awkward to make a save.
It is. And there's a defender right there too. And this was one of those crosses that probably, I would say 8 or 9 times out of 10, this probably doesn't happen exactly this way, because it's kind of an awkward ball for everybody. It's an awkward ball for the girl who finished it. The one who sent it in, Jones, I'm sure it's not exactly where she wanted to put it. It was probably a little ahead of the running player, a little outside of where she wanted to put it. Everything was just off a little bit in just the right way. It unfortunately, I don't think it caught Piracelli off guard. I don't think she was out of position or anything like that. It was just she just happened to hit it in a perfect spot where it got through. And it's unfortunate. It's a bummer. I don't think anybody is necessarily to fault for this one. No. It was kind of a freak goal. But I certainly thought and hoped we would get one back in the next 26 minutes. And unfortunately just couldn't get organized enough.
Yeah, it really felt like a shit time, honestly, for the goal. It didn't, as much as I want to say that I felt that way, that I thought that we could come back and score. The play throughout the game the Billikens just didn't feel dangerous, except for corners. And honestly, corners were the only place that we felt dangerous. We had so many opportunities where the ball landed on a Billiken head and it just was not put away. And, you allow Memphis to grow into it's cliche. You allow them to grow into the game. And the longer the game goes on, and Tony sitting next to me talked about it to me. He said, it's one of those where the longer they stay in the game, the more dangerous they become.
Yeah.
And one of the times they're going to score. So
Memphis is, So that's interesting that you say that, because I thought I didn't see one shot or one chance necessarily that felt super dangerous from the run of play. It felt like everything, like you said, was coming off of corners.
Talking about on the Billikens side.
On the Billikens side, like the Memphis's goalie looked short to me. I don't know. I didn't look at the roster.
Bit of a wussy with her. She's wearing like the warm headband. She got the pants on.
Yeah. Maybe she did. She was smart. She knew what she was doing. But I guess my point is for a team like SLU that does have some size and that scores in a variety of ways, they didn't seem to challenge this goalie a lot. And I thought she was really sound. I thought she was really solid. Smart goalie, did well. But like, I don't know, I kind of felt like challenge her a little bit more, go high on her,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It just, maybe I'm oversimplifying that, but nothing that we put on net out of the run of play looked super dangerous.
Just to run down the stats, and then we'll get into a little more of what we think happened. 13-5 Billikens on shots on goal, 4-3. Of course, one of the three for Memphis went in. Corners were 7-6 Billikens. Fouls 14-7 Memphis. And I felt like they really wanted to take the body on us as much as humanly possible. Just really, I mean, they knew it was going to be cold. Let's make it painful. And they kind of got away with it too. I thought the officiating was very, very average in this one. I mean, I don't blame, like, I'm not going to sit here and blame the officials. But I think, I think it could have been better. Pete, that it was just a tough game. It was a tough it's cold weather, and your nerves are running the whole game. And I think nerves might have played a factor in a way for the Billikens. But really, I think what I have thought about the last 36 hours, whatever it's been. And I want to preface this with, like, again, we appreciate how much Katie and her staff have given us access to this program. It's unbelievable. And I know they will not take offense in any way. But I wonder about the attitude of the team after the unfortunate first round draw. We talked about the reaction. You heard Katie on our show talk about the committee giving SLU a 2 seed, but with the caveat that you have a stronger opponent than the worst seeds. We don't think you really belong here, so here's your test, right? I absolutely believe in bulletin board material, motivation through chips on shoulders. But I think there's a fine line between a team taking disrespect and doing something positive on the field, and maybe some unconsciously feeling sorry for yourself, or feeling as though you worked as hard as you could and put together a serious non-conference schedule and won by as much as possible, and it wasn't enough for some faceless committee. Again, these are proud athletes. That can hurt, and that can bring you kind of turn into a negative energy rather than that chip on your shoulder positive energy.
Yeah, there might be something to that. I mean, I definitely have been, being around SLU's basketball program so much, when I was there definitely is sort of a, I don't want to say feeling sorry for yourself, but yeah,
Right.
you're like, the chip on your shoulder isn't
and it's
always
negative.
productive.
Yes, it's an unproductive chip.
Yeah, right. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, maybe this is just an instance where you've got a lot of emotions coming into this week, a lot of preparation, a lot of different variables, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, this isn't fair, this isn't right. And it's
Then
just
you got
the kind
the cold
of team.
weather. It's free, like,
Right.
Yeah. What do you think? What did you see on your phone, obviously,
Yeah.
about the way SLU played in this one? Because I really, it was so uncharacteristically like what single-minded the whole entire game. And it didn't really feel like they tried anything new. And again, I'm not a soccer mind. I know enough to be dangerous. You know enough to be dangerous, but it just felt like they really kind of fell in that path of having one strategy, and it just kind of backfired.
Memphis just looked ready for them. Not trying anything new. Sure, it's not like I don't know, a football game where you're pulling out like a trick play or something that no one has scouted.
The
But
annexation of Puerto Rico.
right, it's nothing like that. I thought Memphis played them pretty straight up. I thought their tackling was aggressive. Like I felt like SLU was just playing the ball forward without a lot of purpose. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see the sort of like the passing rate in this game compared to other games this season, and like what it's been overall this season. It seemed like I don't know. I don't know if 50-50 balls is the right word. Probably not. That was certainly a factor, but like, I just felt like their passes were not as precise. And I felt like it certainly felt after that goal, like and maybe this was just me projecting my own emotions onto it, but it looked like a little bit of panic as well.
Yes.
Like, in addition to not being as precise as they normally were, if you're also feeling a little bit of panic on top of that, like, we've seen plenty of times where they don't score the first goal. That happens several games early in the season. Um, but it never has it come like this late,
Yeah.
where it's now you've got under a half hour left in this game, and you've got to make up this deficit. And there had been games like that last season that I remember, but not one this season. So I don't know. I just felt like it was a little sloppy, too many unforced turnovers, and just kind of rushing. And I I didn't think the precision was there in this one.
Yeah, I think we talked in the past about how this team will go through the season and there seems to be a progression within a game where, excuse me, they will try to out skill and out, tactic and pass and move and control the ball and try to, play the first part of the game in a way that's tactical, again, real soccer, so to speak, and try to pass the ball in the net, the old Gallagher thing. But at some point, if that's not going to happen, then they go to what they basically spent 90 minutes doing. And that's route one, throw it over the top and let Emily Grork run onto it, let Gaby run onto it. And it was the constant, it felt like, anytime they'd get the ball, it was quickly get it upfield. As quick as possible. Slow down, pass the ball, move, like make Memphis run. I don't know. And then once we obviously gave up the first goal, then it comes into that, maybe your brain's moving too fast for your feet, or your feet's moving too fast for your brain, that kind of thing. Because it always felt like we were a step in the wrong direction of the ball. Well, I don't know how to describe it other than that.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And we talked about that a little bit right after the game, but this one makes probably less sense. But I wonder, like, is this just a team that does not respond well to bad weather? Like, the only other game they lost this season was that Notre Dame game. That was the big lightning delay. Obviously not a cold game, but maybe a little bit of a wet game, a delayed game. They got thrown out of the rhythm, and Notre Dame was ready for them.
And then, of course, we can go all the way back to the George Mason monsoon game a few years ago. Yeah. That was the only game they didn't win. Ended in a tie in the 79th minute.
Yeah, very controversial.
Yeah, so, hey, I don't know. This was just, it really was kind of just, it happened, I don't really know what else you can really say about it. I think there's a lot of things that contributed to, and again, I don't see this program. I mean, I think it's an interesting spot because there is talk out there about, what should the expectations be? Obviously, we talked about Katie. We talked with Katie about Sweet 16 did Katie say it, or did they say it on the Fox Sports Midwest halftime show? Sweet 16 is the goal, right? I think it might have been that.
Right. That's the next round they had not been to yet.
But like, what is the standard, right? What is the expectation? And it's hard when you're talking about a program that is moving so fast, right? And it's hard to sit here and move the goalposts for them already to where we've been to the NCAA tournament 5 times. Are we starting to get to the point where we got to do better now? But at the same time, they're still playing amazing soccer.
Yeah,
it's hard because it's an evolving program. So the goalpost has to evolve, but how fast does the goalpost evolve?
With a constant analogy, and we come from, a place where people are talking mostly about men's basketball, being a basketball school and everything. And
I
so
think that, yeah, I think fans are falling into that trap.
the analogy is always Gonzaga and how they just dominate a conference and are in the tournament every year, and they're just kind of the gold standard for that conference. But if you look at Gonzaga's historical performance, it was a long time before they really went anywhere in the tournament.
Yes.
It was a lot of getting to the tournament and only winning a game, maybe two a couple times, but really they were kind of stuck in that spot.
I think
And
Adam Morrison was the first time they progressed,
but that was a whole generation after the Casey Cavalry and I'm forgetting the Dan Dickow, was that the guard's name? Like they had some
John Stockton. Did he play for? Was he?
yeah, well that was
Billikens?
a couple generations earlier. But yeah, I mean the point is, like, that's a program that won and won and won, but didn't win in a national way for a while because it really, this is where, like, it takes a while for things like your recruiting is now getting to the point where you're competing with SEC schools, ACC schools, Pac-12 schools, whatever. And so those things all take time. I mean, Coach Shields is in her 10th season at the program now. Like, this is a long.
She's made it to the NCAA tournament
build.
5 out of 10 years. Are you like,
right?
That's insane. Like, name another coach.
Yeah. So I get right, and so one of the thing that narratively speaking that bothers me in all of this is that, like, now they can, like she said, like when they got in Memphis, it kind of felt like a message, like, we don't want you here.
Yeah.
We're going to throw every obstacle at you we can, and it worked. Like, if that really was the case, because now the message is, well, SLU may have been overrated and their record was inflated, and all of those awful things you could say to a really good team that bombs out early in the tournament. And you and I know this team's really good, that this legitimately was a top 10 team that had beaten top 10 teams this season. And it's frustrating that now that they have to kind of deal with that narrative, or at least that can be out there. The last thing I'll say is I did kind of a little bit of more research on that Memphis being a quote unquote 15 seed with the 77 RPI and coming out of a pretty solid conference. So the others that were on that line were Radford out of the Big South, which actually had a respectable 109 RPI.
Shout out Jack Raboyne.
Yeah, go Highlanders. Northern Arizona was a 194 in the RPI, and Omaha 207. So those are the other three teams playing 2 seeds. And then when you look at the 14 seeds, quote unquote, who are playing the 3 seeds, you've got Missouri State, who's a 143 in the RPI, who SLU beat at Missouri State 7-0 earlier this season, if you remember that game.
I remember.
San Jose State, right around there, 147 in the RPI. Fairleigh Dickinson, 211. And then for some reason, Wake Forest wound up at that line as well. So that's another one where somebody, a 3 seed got screwed. So yeah, look, I know it's not the NCAA, like, men's or women's basketball tournament. It's a different process. They do more to keep the early rounds a little more regional, but that's an absolutely brutal draw for a school that you're calling the number 8 overall seed. It's brutal. I don't want to say that's it. Should you beat them? Yeah. They just beat Dayton. They just beat VCU, teams that were higher in the RPI. We know SLU can beat teams like this. We've seen them do it over and over and over. It's just a really frustrating element. And I am so sad for this team that I got so connected to all year long, that they've got to, just kind of watch the rest of this tournament unfold without them now. It's frustrating.
Yeah. You mentioned, like, it's like I got attached. It's like finding a dog and then the dog's owner show up like 2 weeks later and you're like, God damn it.
I was going to keep him.
I know, I already named him again.
Yeah. But no, really.
I think there is, though, something to also be said about in the progression of becoming the powerhouse that Katie Shields is trying to be, right? Yeah. You learn how to dominate your conference. You start getting national attention last year. You learn how to deal with that 25 to 15 rating, and you learn how to play teams that are like they're gunning for you. You
Right.
are their Super Bowl. Then you get to then you achieve that top 10 rating. Now you got to learn to live as the team that has that number 10 next to them. That's a different living situation. It's like being a billionaire versus a millionaire.
Yeah.
If I want to steal Chappelle's joke from SNL this weekend, but no,
It's the burden of expectations.
There is a burden. There's a burden, and it weighs heavy. And regardless of the fact that these seniors have been here for 5+ years, that's a situation they haven't been in. That's a new situation of having a 2 next year name going into the tournament as well. So, but a great career, obviously ended on a sour note, one that I'm sure they will tell you was unacceptable. But a great career for the departing seniors, and best of luck to them. I hope some of them go pro. I know we talked with Shields about Bree Halverson has a desire to go pro. I'm sure some of the other ones do too. So
yeah, that's Coach Shields said, look, this one game doesn't define you. For all 8 of the players who are moving on now, they put together amazing careers. This is the best team in SLU history, the best regular season team for sure. Broke every record you could break. This season has become the gold standard for performance in a season by a SLU team. Now, yes, other teams have gone one round further than this one in the tournament, but like the 2012 men's basketball team that we point to as like that one was that was a good team, that was a better team, and unfortunately just had to play Michigan State in the second round, and sometimes that happens.
It be like that sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes those tournament draws are just tough, and but people who follow the program know this was a special team.
Over on the men's soccer side, it really was like an up and down. It was like watching the crypto market this week, being a Billiken fan, because you have the highs of number 2 seed in the country, or in the NCAA tournament for women. Then you see Memphis on the schedule. Then you get to the game, you lose that game. You go to the men's basketball game. You go up big. We're losing at halftime. We end up winning that game. We'll get to that later. And then Sunday, you've got men's soccer. And you've also got some news tangentially related to men's soccer, Pete.
Tim Ream is going to the World Cup, Zach. This is so exciting. This is something that I have been like banging the drum for. No one listens to me, obviously.
Well, some people do. I've seen the numbers on Anchor.
That's true, but no one who has Greg Berhalter in their ear. I'll put it that way. But it was kind of like,
a lot of people want to be in Greg Berhalter's ear.
Oh yeah,
according to the message boards.
I know, yeah,
and the Twitter.
There are tens of millions of people who think they can run that program. But no, watching the qualification for the men's national team, and he wasn't there for most of the games, especially in the last year. And it was kind of like, what this defense could use is a solid veteran who's playing the best soccer of his career in the top flight, in the top league in the world.
And luscious locks of hair.
That's right. And a charming, rugged beard, and it couldn't be a nicer guy. So it's seeing Tim Ream, Billiken legend, St. Louis legend, as a 35-year-old make the men's national team roster for the World Cup it's so exciting.
I found out yesterday that in going to search for gloves for the women's soccer game, that Nike has put out, and I know people aren't big fans of the jerseys this year, this World Cup, but they have long sleeve ones, which I don't think they've ever offered. So I'm actually excited about that. I may get me a Ream long sleeve, the white jersey. I do like the white jersey way better than the blue. I still don't like either of them enough if Ream wasn't on the team, I wouldn't even consider buying a jersey.
What about for Sargent? Because there's another
I
St.
wouldn't
Louis,
buy it for Sargent.
I mean, you're a St. Charles guy. Those are both St. Charles
I'm
guys.
barely a St. Charles guy. I'm like a 3-year St. Charles guy.
Well,
I just went for high school.
That's enough. That's what goes next to your your bio.
I do
and
like
the
the streets of St. Charles, and that's kind of fun. Maristar's fun. Jesus Christ. The Billiken RPI is up to number 18. It was 23 the week prior. Pete, what are the rankings looking like for this team?
Well, they keep moving up in the rankings as well. They are up to number 20 in the coaches poll from 21. Number 25 by Top Drawer Soccer, actually no change there. And then College Soccer News also has them at 25, up from number 28. They give a top 30. I just checked the RPI and it has not updated since November 6th. So SIUE is still number 18 in the RPI as they head into the tournament here. I know that's going to refresh later tonight. But Zach, let's go through this this week in the A10 tournament for men's soccer. That was quite a week.
What an absolute week put in by Carlos effing Tofern.
Yeah. It's all about the keeper.
I mean, we can't discuss this week. Like in the notes, it says we cannot discuss this game without saying the name Carlos Tofern. And I wrote that 2 days ago.
It's both really dated and really prescient at the same time.
It is unbelievable. It is like every movie reference that's come out of my mouth. We cannot discuss this week without saying the name Carlos Tofern. He was the runaway, most outstanding player of the A10 tournament. Easily made the all tournament team. Most
outstanding player too.
Yes. Can you imagine the tingle that you have as Kalish, Stoll, and Birch watching a guy that you recruited as a grad transfer come in and replace the best Billiken goalkeeper of the last 20 years?
Oh, easily.
Sorry, Mark Pace. You brought him in as a grad transfer to fill a massive hole, and he comes in and puts on the greatest. This has to be the greatest goalkeeping performance in college soccer history. It has to be. There's no way. Every person, if Bill McDermott said he's never seen anything like it,
yeah,
it's the greatest. It's the greatest penalty kick performance in maybe soccer history. It has to be. There's no way. 6 out of 10 stops. 6 out of 10.
Well, I will have to take McDermott's word for it because, if he says it, it's true. It's like Earl in basketball. Like if
he's never seen something in St. Louis basketball ever,
yeah, then that's it.
True. Yeah.
That's the first entry.
It's the walking Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I don't like. How do you feel? Like that's got to be such a boost to the ego, a boost to your confidence in your ability to scout and ability to recruit and ability to bring in the right player.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, move it, kind of going ahead of ourselves. You look at the tweet from I almost said Tom Timmerman, Stu Durando. SIUE coach Kevin Kalish said he tried to tell goalkeeper Carlos Tofern which direction each Loyola player would go on his PK. Tofern ignored the advice or didn't hear on the final kicker, dove the opposite direction and made the save for the win. They really focused on scouting PKs for the playoffs, and it showed in this one. It showed in both games. I mean, full marks to Carlos Tofern. He's still got to read right too.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, from top to bottom, this is a team effort. These two wins.
Yeah, and like you said, this tracks with what we had heard that PK tendencies were something that was a focus for the staff. It surprised me in a couple ways, just because it's like, wow, I didn't know college soccer scouting was at that level. But I also didn't know, I didn't know there would be enough data to
Yes.
to look at. Like, how many times are you, like, if you're looking at other teams,
Especially now that we never had PKs in the first place in college soccer during the regular season.
So you've only got like what everybody takes in the regular season, and it's like, how many of those do you actually have to go on? You've got like, this guy's
how
taken
deep
2 in his career. He goes to the left.
Do you get deep into how a player, do you look at the way they shoot in the run of play too? Where they like to place it, how they like to, I don't know. It's wild, but to have that kind of data is crazy. And I mean, you get that in pro soccer because you have long careers. You have, 50, 60 game seasons. In soccer, it's in college soccer, it's like 25 games, maybe.
I mean, their record right now is 11-4-3. So like, that's, you're not even getting to
20 games.
20. Yeah.
So
not to mention the
Absolutely.
So okay, so we've talked about the most outstanding player. We talked about how he got there, where his heroics kind of came from. Let's circle back to what actually these games were, Zach, because on Wednesday the 9th, SLU went into overtime, tied 1-1 against Dayton, and that's where it stood at the end of overtime.
Yeah, a lot of chatter on this one about incessant diving and whining from Dayton. Did that come across on the stream? Because I necessarily didn't see it any more than usual.
No,
I hate Dayton, so screw them. I don't. Yeah.
And a lot of other SLU fans do too. So maybe we're just kind of more acutely aware of Dayton whining. But
it sounds the same.
I think there's
doesn't matter what your background. It's Dayton whining is Dayton whining.
They've also got an international heavy roster, and I know it's definitely an American fan thing that international players, no matter the continent, we think they all whine and dive and flop, more than tough Americans who never do those things would do. But no, it really, on the stream, it's I don't know. You have such a smaller picture. You're not there. You don't hear the fan reactions necessarily, but you've also got the announcers talking to each other. And unless they sort of call it out as such, it doesn't come across the same way. So
speaking of the announcers, great job this week by Dan Betlock and of course, Mr. Soccer Bill McDermott. I genuinely struggle with going to the game versus not going to the game, because I would love to sit there and listen to Bill McDermott commentate. So
you could be the guy who's at the game with the headphones on. Although
the Bartman,
the delay, exactly. The Bartman, the delay would be even worse, because Bartman's going off of an AM radio, 10 second delay, and you would have like a 70-second ESPN feed delay. But regardless, you should do that. Get the big headphones on, sitting up there by yourself in the stands, keep the score.
This Dayton game actually I thought was a better game. It was more entertaining game, I thought,
than the Loyola one.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, by far.
I mean, it was a lot less cagey. Teams were going for it. I felt like it started in the 18th minute. It was Manny Day, assisted by Michael Adedokun. Pass came from a little outside the box. Day gathered it really deep to the right, got it in the net despite a tough angle. 76th minute. I didn't think this was coming. Honestly, I didn't think it's come is not the right word. I wasn't sure. I thought we could, but it happened kind of out of nowhere, I thought, in the 76th minute. CJ Coppola, assisted by Kevin Commodi. Commodi hooked a free kick deep into the box, took a bounce, and Coppola jumped up to finish it with his right knee up in the air. Avoid a disaster with the post.
Yes. Yeah. And after he breezed by the post, he kind of had to hang on to the side of the net, to kind of stabilize himself
Good
there.
thing there's no basket interference.
Yeah, that's right. Ball was already well into the net by then. But man, yeah, kind of a scary moment actually. But it again came in with his knee high up, similar to that the finish in the women's game. That Memphis had a little bit of an awkward play. But regardless, good finish.
Shots in this one were Dayton 16, Billikens 8. Dayton really took they started off on the front foot in this one. They really took it to the Billikens. I thought they didn't play well for the first 65 minutes of the game. It really was only after, again, close to the 70th minute that the Billikens started to look dangerous. Shots on goal, 3 each. Corners were 7, Billikens, Dayton 6. The fouls were 19-13, Dayton. And I think this tracks back to the women's Memphis game where the less skilled team just really tries to disrupt the skilled team. And fortunately in this one, the Billikens found a way to counter that. 2 yellow cards. Slews went to Christian Buendia and Enzo Akpoye. And that sent the Billikens through to the final.
Yeah, with those with the PK heroics.
It was that was incredible to watch. I mean, like that game in and of itself, the PK shootout, the saves by Tofern, it was bizarre. It's still the most bizarre game. This was easily the most exciting Billiken game since I think did we play Fairleigh Dickinson in the NCAA tournament? And Cristo scored a brace to go ahead, or to go 2-0. That was probably the most exciting game previously, I think. That and for other reasons, the Creighton game the spring season when we just absolutely dismantled Creighton.
Duke last year in the tournament.
Duke last year in the tournament was amazing.
Yeah.
And also the Long Island game was great too. So so maybe I'm missing my recency bias there.
I don't know. A shootout is a pretty high drama way to
I think there's two trains of thought on that one. There's this shouldn't go to a skills competition.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What are you going to play for another 90 minutes and just let these two teams? Well, I guess it more applicable in the final where you wouldn't want to play that sort of game for another 30, 40 minutes.
Right.
And speaking of which, it was a 0-0 draw after 90 and the 2 overtime periods. Went to a shootout Sunday, 11-13. The Billikens advanced 3-1 on PKs. To get to the final, Loyola upset 2 seed Duquesne, snapping their 19-game home winning streak, which is incredible. This one was scoreless in regulation and overtime. Pete, run us down the stats.
Yeah, honestly, not a whole lot of narrative to come from this game. It was just kind of like, somebody score and end this thing. Not that it's a golden goal format, but still, it just felt like whoever scored first was going to win it. And luckily for us, no one did. Shots were 6-6 in this game, 6-6, Zach, with 2 halves and 2 overtime periods. Incredible. SLU won the shots on goal battle 3-0. Loyola had 4 corners to SLU's 2. A lot of fouls in this one. SLU 20, Loyola 17, and actually Enzo Akpoye, forgot he had that yellow in the previous game. He got a yellow in this one too, and I thought it was pretty soft, but I think that means he can't play in the first round.
I don't know about that.
Or does that carry over?
I don't know. I didn't love his game in this one, if I'm going to be honest. It was just, I thought he was a little he felt like he had the disposition of the women's team against Memphis. Just kind of felt like he was moving a little too fast. You got to go with that Mark Wahlberg and shooter mentality, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right?
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like he was living that life in this one, but
hey,
we come out with a win and that's all that matters.
Right. And you know, we already talked about Tofern and how he
We
came
could
up.
talk about him all night.
I'm just a hero,
Just
SLU athlete of the week, you know,
real
A10 athlete of the
American
week.
heroes. People forget that was the original Budweiser commercial.
Commodity, Suarez, and Easton all hit their PK attempts in this one.
Commodity had a little words for the Loyola keeper.
He did.
That was interesting.
Did he think he came off his line, or what was that?
I don't know what it was, but he kind of like pointed at him, and then like he tried to rile up the crowd, which I guess worked. But
yeah,
unbelievable effort by everyone over. I thought it was funny because the Loyola keeper celebrated a missed PK, like not even a save.
Right.
We hit the post, and he like gets up. It's not like an initial, like he doesn't get up and celebrate right away. He gets up, walks like it was very forced. It was very odd. Like he just like
if you give it a little one of these, like, all right, yes, like,
or you get up immediately and you're like that.
Yeah.
But he
a little
walked,
reaction, I get it.
It was like 5 steps. Like their next kick taker was coming up already, and then he started to go into his thing.
Right.
Like chill, dude. Like you're all right. You're all right.
Right.
Pete, let everyone know where they can watch the selection show and when.
It'll be, as you're listening to this, on Monday the 14th. It's at noon St. Louis time. So if you're listening right away, you may have time. If not, it's already happened. So go look at those brackets, but it'll be on NCAA.com. And yeah, hopefully you hear this in time to catch it. But if not, you know, it's a selection show. No big deal. But the cool thing here, Zach, this is SLU's 50th NCAA tournament appearance, the most of any program in NCAA men's soccer history. And that's the way it should be. We should just be there every year.
Yeah, most likely this one. They put it out as like a pre-recorded video. We kind of had that like annoying thing where we were texting. It was me, you, and the rest of the Twitter squad, and it was everyone was annoyed at me because I was like 5 minutes ahead of the video than everybody else. But yeah, so you can catch that at any point after whatever time, and you can't fast forward, which kind of stinks, but I get it. But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Peter, I got to learn a little bit about the pickling pouches, and I still don't know if it's my thing, but I know it's your thing.
It is my thing, Zach. And I just, as I told people last week, I got a new box in, and I put a real deal dill pickling pouch in there because I had to try it. What I did with this one, I decided to just get a pack of baby cucumbers from the store and throw them in here and see what happened. So it's really it could not be easier. You get this pouch, it's got some seasoning in there. You add 1/3 of a cup of apple cider vinegar. You put whatever veggies you want in there. You pour in just enough water to top off whatever you've got in there. Seal the bag, give it a little bit of a shake, put it in the fridge, and then shake it once a day for the next 3 days. After 3 days, you're done. So I did it this week with these baby cucumbers, and I wasn't sure how they'd come out. I left one whole, cut one into half, cut one into quarters like spears, and then the other one I sliced into chips, and they all turned out pretty well.
Cucumba.
They all turned out pretty well. I gotta say, the spears were a little floppy, a little bit, but I thought the halves and the whole
Nobody
held
wants
up well.
floppy spears.
The chips were good. So what I did when this was done too, I had an old glass jar in the pantry, dumped everything into that one just to kind of see what it all looked like. There's a ton of dill in there. So like, you're definitely going to have to, you know, kind of dunk and shake these things a little bit before you eat them, or they're just going to be coated in dill and at least part of it. But they actually turned out pretty well, Zach. I think I'm still more of a fan of how it turned out with the smoky chipotle flavor, what that did to a big white onion that I did a couple months ago.
One of these days we're gonna have to get on FaceTime and you're gonna have to walk me through this. I'll try it. I will try it one time.
You don't even need a walkthrough. It couldn't be easier. But these are on their website at 2minuteinagarden.com. They've got it's got its own product category. They're $4.99 a piece. It's a really nice product. They got it in 5 flavors. Like I said, real deal dill, smoky chipotle, sweet heat, darn spicy dill, and then bread and butter, if that's your thing. And they're great, Zach. They're fun to experiment with. I love to experiment in the kitchen. It drives my wife nuts, but I like to tinker around. And these are kind of a fun, easy way to kind of it's like I said before, it's kind of a cheat code when it comes to quick pickling. So grab a few of these and experiment for yourself. 2minuteingarden.com.
Men's basketball, and again, to our listeners who are here for men's basketball, the more the games that mean more in the moment are always going to get precedence. I mean, we're basketball first, but when you earn it, you earn it, and men's and women's soccer have certainly earned it.
Yep.
91-68 opening night win, November 7th against Murray State. Peter, I texted you this. What did I text you during the game?
I believe you said it was the best opening night crowd in Chaffetz Arena history.
And I will stand by that. There was the attendance of 7,253 for sure. Yes, Missouri State. I look at, or I'm sorry, the attendance for this was 7,020. I'm sorry. It was, I think, yes, Murray State's semi-local. It's, a sort of name opponent, but it's still not exactly a sexy name.
They're a team that won 30 games last season. They've made it to the tournament a lot in recent years. Arguably the most exciting player in the NBA right now came out of there.
Jordan Goodwin went to SLU.
Ooh, touche. And actually, yeah, the guy he shut down last week, John Morant, is the one who came out of Missouri State. But Murray State. Yeah, so you're right. It's not a name brand program, but it's definitely to real college basketball fans. Yes. This is a program that has definitely meant a little bit in the last several years.
I thought, just kind of a random note, I thought the intro video was awesome. There's a lot of, like, if you watched, I don't know if anybody caught the Nickelodeon broadcast of the Super Bowl, how they do the little, like, comic book type stuff. Like when you almost catch it.
Like pop-up video almost on VH1.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of that in the video. There's kind of little effects that are just really, really cool, really subtle, but really neat. Just a lot of great videography, and the music. I don't love the song. I liked previous year songs better, but it was top notch. Always well done. I think even you harken back to the rise of the Billikens. The whoever they've hired to do the video always does an unbelievable job. Yeah. Perkins and Jimerson lead the way in this one.
Yeah, these were our 20-point scorers. Jimerson had 20, Perkins had 21. Now Perkins, Zach, I mean, he was clearly not 100%, hobbling around in this one, limping around, but his 3-point shot was on.
Yes, that's kind of what we're going to talk about this week.
Yeah,
I think there's things to be said about where his game is at in the different levels. Because he, like you said, he's definitely not 70, or he's definitely not 100%, and I don't know if it's affecting his game or if it's just rust. We're gonna have to see how that progresses. The big stat in this one was off of the hands of Yuri Collins.
Yeah, 14 assists, 0 turnovers. It's just incredible.
Again, Travis Ford said he may have never seen that happen before. Again, it's Murray State. It's not a good Murray State team. It's certainly not their best team. But again, anytime you bring out 14 assists with 0 turnovers against a Division I program is a hell of an effort.
Yeah, for sure. And
after, I sat here and sorry to cut you up, but I sat here and I've questioned his ability to lead an offense. He certainly can pass. He certainly can make great plays, but leading an offense and that 0 turnovers, it shut me up.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he Yeah, I mean, that was exactly where I was going to go with that point. I think the offense has run pretty smoothly so far. And
Not
I
a
like the way he
single
looks.
weave has been run.
They kind of went into it a
They
little bit like a
they
modified weave, but
like a
not
very
a
like a one person.
yeah,
It's
not a
what
true weave.
I still don't understand like what like I understand like the matchup point, but like I guess rhythmically I don't know what it does. But again, I'm just a message board moron. Um Okoro had a tough game in this one, but gathered in 13 rebounds.
Yeah, as did Javon Pickett. And it looks like those two are going to be number 1 and 2 in rebounding for us this season. If these first 2 games are any indication.
Did one thing I really liked in this game was the way that this was a really tough matchup for Okoro. He had a guy that he's playing going up against who's a stretch big who can step out and shoot it. Pulled him way out of position in this one. Still managed to get 13 rebounds, but the emergence of Jake Forrester in this one, I think that the idea of the X factor being Fred Thatch or a guy like Pickett, it may be overlooking Forrester.
He had 11 and 7 in 17 minutes. And I love his energy. It's not just the production.
He just looks like a fun dude out there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He puts in a lot of effort.
Yeah, especially on the rebound. Like he's not going to get every. I think somebody said he's not going to get every rebound, but he's sure as shit going to make somebody work for it.
Yeah.
Like I don't
that's
remember
right.
who said it.
I did.
Did you say it?
Yeah, on our Twitter.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, whoever said that's really smart.
I had some drinks yesterday. So. 2 beers, Zach got crazy. 2 Zima, Zach. Sorry. Yeah, no, I was really happy with what I got what we got from Forrester, and I truly think that he more than replaces Linson. And we can talk about it at the end of our Evansville talk, but yeah. I mean, he may not score at an efficiency that Linson did, but he certainly can defend better than Linson did.
Yeah, and rebound. Yep.
Yes. Again, attendance was 7,020. Great opening night crowd, an energetic opening night crowd. I think people are excited, and sure, yes, the athletic department is giving away tickets, which is, again, you're trying to get people in the building. That's what we want to. It's a stupid cliche, the show me state. Let's show them.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do more than winning. In the early season, we haven't had the best opening night crowds in recent years.
Not even close.
And it shows that there's more expectations. There's been more hype coming into the season. Now we've won 2 games, and we've got a big marquee opponent coming up on Tuesday night. And this is where you can really build that momentum. You win a game like that, then people start really showing up.
Yeah, I will say one side note before we end this day that we're talking about, we're getting into the Evansville. Anyway, I went into the bookstore on Friday, and they have some really great stuff. If you're able to get to within their operating hours, which are like 3 hours every 3 weeks, like it's ridiculous. Go check out the stuff. They've got a really nice selection of just kind of interesting items. I found a Billiken Apple Watch band, which is great because now I'm wearing a Garmin. After I've been searching for a Billiken Apple Watch band, it's tastefully done. It's like, is it embossed? Is that the term where it's depressed into the thing and it's the same color? Like, is that what it? Yeah, I don't know.
I think so.
They're nice. They're tasteful. Yeah, there's also great Nike gear over there and some like Columbia stuff and Champion stuff. But on to the Evansville game last night. This was a weird. Chapley joked with me about the vibes.
Yeah.
Well, the vibes were good in the arena for the first 7 minutes. Then the vibes got weird. And then the vibes got good again.
You could kind of hear it too. Like there's definitely you miss a lot on the broadcast, but there's definitely an energy that comes through. And I know some of that is my own emotional swings with this game. It took us a little while. Murray State was actually leading in the early going of
It
that
was a
game.
bizarre game.
In that first game. And then
Oh,
SIUE caught up and put him away. Now in this one, SIUE got out to a big lead early. It was like 12-2 at the first media time.
It almost mirrored Evansville's game against Miami of Ohio, but reversed roles.
Oh, sure.
Evansville got out to a huge lead at the beginning of that game because Miami couldn't shoot the ball for anything.
Yeah.
And then Miami kind of caught up, and then Evansville ended up pulling away to a lesser extent. But
Sure,
it mirrored it in a lot of ways. But you mentioned the crowd and being able to hear the vibes. It was a really nice crowd.
Early on, you thought, okay, SIUE's going to run away with this one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a comfortable win. Everybody, it was a Saturday night. Everybody was kind of like feeling good. And it was like, all right, wow, this team's really good. And then over the course of the first half, SIUE just proceeded to let Evansville outplay, like really outrun, out hustle.
Yes, this was an effort.
Out energy them, out effort them in every facet of the game for most of the first half. After they kind of, I don't know if that little lead got them a little complacent or what, but they let Evansville's effort really beat them. And Evansville, I think it was what, a 1 point lead at halftime.
Yeah, they led at halftime by 1, and there was a mention that it was an entirely different lineup out there when Evansville made their comeback, made their little run there. Really, there was the rebounding wasn't there, the hustle wasn't there. I think one of the main culprits might have been Pickett on a loose ball where he didn't dive on to get on the floor to get it, which again Ford cannot be happy with, especially.
Right.
That's what you're looking for out of that kind of guy.
Yeah,
he's the guy right. That's the first man that needs to be the first man to the floor. But you mentioned the first half lead, or the 1 point lead for Evansville in this one, and that this kind of shows why it was all effort. Is the slash line for the Billikens was 50-50, 100,
right?
And we're losing by 1.
I don't know if I've ever seen that.
That's
50-50, 100.
That's just not taking care of the ball and not playing defense at a high level and not rebounding too, because there was a couple plays where I think Evansville had more than 1 rebound on a single possession.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm thinking of the sequence where Pickett had a chance to fall on the ball and he just didn't. And then there was the other one where I think like it was another situation where you're doing everything right and just it doesn't work out for you. Like you tip it, and then it goes to randomly to an Evansville player. So
I thought, not only Pickett but Forrester had kind of a tough game here.
Yes,
he only wound up playing 11 minutes in this one and just did not look like the guy who we just described in the previous game. Pickett had a little bit of a tough game despite coming away with 11 and 13. And then Okoro finishes with 16 and 12 with 2 blocks, 3 assists, but it was a long time before he really kind of got in a rhythm in this game. Like he was out of position a number of times. He was just kind of, his decision making seemed a little spotty. I don't know. He just seemed kind of off. And then all of a sudden you look down as SIUE kind of put it away in the second half, and he wound up having a pretty big night numbers wise.
Yeah, this game is this is a complete anomaly because we could sit here and talk about everybody on this stat line and how they screwed up. Yeah. And how they played poorly. But then you get to the bottom and first half, 15 for 30 from the field, 50%. 4 for 8 from 3, 50%. 3 for 3 from the line, 100%. Look at the second half. 16 to 31 from the field, 51.61%. 7 of 14 for 3, 50%. 7 of 7 from the line, 100%. That's good for 50.8% from the field for the game, 50% from 3 for the game, 100% from the line for the game. What the hell happened in this one?
Yeah, it was so weird. Just
I don't even know if it's possible? It's like the equivalent of having a 6-1 football score.
Right. Yeah, it's it definitely we've mentioned scoregami in the past, and this is definitely a fun with
This is a
numbers kind of box score.
statagami.
It really is. It really is. It was a strange game that way.
Nothing in my life has ever been fun when numbers are involved, Peter.
But this was fun. This was
kind of fun. It was fun late in the game.
It wasn't fun at halftime. I'm glad I was not in SLU's locker room at halftime. I would not have liked to be in there.
Travis Ford was fake punching air.
Oh man.
I love when he does that. I love when
Yes.
he cocks his fist back as if he's gonna do something.
He gets mad and throws that fist in the air. Yeah, and I mean, like, keep in mind, Evansville, new coach, a lot of new players. This team was picked to finish last in the Valley.
That's a good team.
Missouri State, I think they were picked 8th in the Valley. So these are not, we're about to run into like Drake, Carbondale, some teams that are picked in the top 3 in the Valley. That's a big difference from what these teams are supposed to be. Now, new coaches, a lot of new players, a lot of unknowns. They might be a little better than people think they are. They just might be unknown. That's fine.
What's that?
But they're still.
What'd you say?
I guess I used unknown the wrong way there, Zach. I don't know if that's allowable on a SLU podcast.
Are we gonna get copyright striked?
Yeah. Okay. So, our producer's going to go back and edit.
Yeah,
this.
I'll edit that out.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, these are teams that you're supposed to be by a lot, and it's at halftime when you're down 1 to this team, that's not a good feeling.
Yeah, no, it's not hardly at all. Run us down the leaders not the leaders in stats, but kind of the stats that stood out in this one.
Yeah, so Jimerson had 18 to lead all scorers here. Yuri Collins had 12, but he had 13 assists, almost matching his 14 from the night before, but he did have 5 turnovers in this one, unlike his goose egg and turnovers in the Murray State game. Pickett ended up with 11 points and 13 rebounds in what didn't feel like his best performance. And then Okoro had 18 and 12 in a night that was full of fits and starts for him. Now Perkins had 13, and you have a note here about Perkins and kind of, what's he doing off the dribble versus what is he doing out of the catch and shoot. In this game, 13 points on 4 of 10 shooting. Again, his 3-point shooting, 3 for 4, looked great. He was 2 for 2 from the line, perfect there. One thing you're not seeing out of Perkins this season, he's not putting up any other numbers outside of scoring. He just isn't. He's not fighting for rebounds. He's never been a big assist guy.
But fouls, he can pass. He can pass.
He can pass, but it's still not going to show up in a big number in that column. And then fouls, he's not putting his body out there on the line. This is it's been interesting to see Perkins basically put up a decent point number both nights so far, and then a bunch of 1s and 0s in the rest of the columns in the box score. I think that's just kind of how it's going to be.
He's not making his mid-range either. He's not making them.
Yeah. I mean, 4 for 10, but 3 from 4 from 3. Yeah. So that's 1 of 6 inside the arc.
And I think the one close was a layup maybe, or a close in, but he's like, this is what we missed, is that closer from 2, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he's not always going to get that 3-point open look. We need him to be able to have the ball, start his drive, and pull up for an easy one from the elbow.
Yeah,
we're going to need that. And that's going to need to come around here quickly, because we have a couple games coming up that we're going to talk about that are important. One note from this game, there was a recruit in attendance for this one, Pete.
Yeah, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. Bruce Zhang, it was behind the bench. He's a 7-footer, just about, and he's the one who goes to the Skill Factory prep down in Georgia.
They don't make any bones about what that place is.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's
a basketball factory.
It's a basketball school. So he was behind the bench, and he's out of Shenzhen, China. He's actually listed at 7'1", 255. I had to pull up his dimensions. He's one that caught eyes though, because people were like, "Who is this 7-foot dude behind the bench?" And yeah, so good eyes from those of us who were in the house and sent us messages about that one. But pretty quickly, when he was described, I was like, I think there's only one guy I know of who we're recruiting who meets that description, and he does have a SLU offer, as we discussed back in October. But good to see him behind the bench, and hopefully we see a lot more priority recruits out this year.
Peter, give me your overreact on something here from the first week of Billiken hoops.
If I'm going to overreact to something that's just kind of, I don't know, stuck in my craw, something I'm just like kind of mulling over, we are not forcing turnovers at all. And look, I know this is, SLU's not a pressing team. We don't rely on a lot of like traps. It's kind of I don't think this is a perfect descriptor, but bend, don't break offense or defense, where we're just we just want to be solid. We want to force bad shots and rebound. So I get it. I get it, right? We're not a team that's going to be forcing 20 turnovers a game, but we're not even forcing 10 in some cases. I mean, like it was I think 9 against UMSL, 10 against Murray State, and then Evansville only turned it over 6 times, which, look, again, not our style to force a ton of them, but when you're playing a team with a first year coach, a lot of players who are playing together for the first time, for them to only turn it over 6 times in a game that had a relatively high amount of possessions, right? Like, this isn't Soderbergh era, wear out the whole 35-second shot clock, where you're shooting for 10 turnovers or less in a game. Like, they're getting 6 against a lot of possessions here. They had 66 field goal attempts. This is a game with some pace to it. So I don't quite understand why we're not forcing more turnovers. And then on the other hand, we're not turning it over a ton, but we are turning it over more than our opponent in all of these games. And that's part of the reason for that first half collapse, deficit, whatever you want to call it, is Evansville had quite a few more shot attempts. I think it was 6 more shot attempts than us in the first half. Wow. And so that's just something that I'm just kind of raising an eyebrow about. That's kind of like, it was never like this last year. We were a good defensive team, but we did a better job about winning the turnover battle more frequently.
I'm going to overreact about our bench production. If we are going to be a quick moving team, a team that likes to get up and down, a team that is going to wear opponents out and win with depth. And I'm actually, the hot part of this take is that it's not the scoring that's the issue here. It's the taking care of the ball. I'd much rather this team struggle to put the ball in the hoop and get up shots than turn the ball over, than play poor defense. And that is what I think we saw with that second unit that caused Evansville to get right back in this game. And I think that's something that needs to be fixed quickly. And I think, and again, like we pointed out, that was a whole different lineup in there. But we need to figure out how to keep continuity when you do put in a whole different lineup. And again, it doesn't have to be a well-oiled machine offensively. You just have to not screw up. And they did a lot of screwing up there.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, one of the things that we had talked about so much coming into the season was our depth, and it certainly didn't look like that against Evansville. A few of those guys did have better games against Murray State, but they can't all be kind of sloppy on the same night like that.
Let's look ahead, Pete. Tuesday the 15th, the Billikens will take on Memphis, then head up to Connecticut for the Hall of Fame tournament tip-off at the Mohegan Sun. The Billikens will play Maryland on the 19th and either Providence or Miami on the 20th. Let's preview Memphis and preview Maryland. Let's do the teams we can, and we're gonna have to let the dice roll with Providence and Miami and let people kind of
Right.
figure their way out on that one.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, with these previews, we don't want to get super in depth either. We just kind of want to give you a kind of an overview of what they are. Memphis is 1-0. They've only played one game so far, and it was a 76-67 win at Vanderbilt. Zach, one thing that stands out about this roster is they are old, like really old. We think of SLU as being experienced, but Memphis really is. They've got 5 guys on the roster listed as fifth years, 3 seniors, 3 redshirt seniors, a junior, a sophomore, a freshman, and a redshirt freshman. So 8 guys on the roster are transfers. I mean, Memphis it's kind of a unique situation with Penny because there's been so much roster turnover in his seasons there, and yet somehow he winds up with this veteran roster like this. That's really only possible in the last handful of seasons where you've got the no waiver transfer thing going on. So he's definitely taking advantage of a unique landscape to get this much experience this fast. So against Vanderbilt, they played 9. They went about 9 deep. The starters were DeAndre Williams, Kendrick Davis, Alex Lomax, Malcolm Dandridge, and Keontae Kennedy. Williams scored 17, Davis had 16, and then the scoring was pretty spread out evenly after that. They did not shoot it well from 3. Very effective inside, though. Lomax and Davis are kind of on the small side, but otherwise Memphis has pretty good size at every position. Lomax, Williams, and Dandridge are guys that SLU saw last year, along with Jaden Hardaway and Chandler Lawson off the bench. So those 5 are basically, I guess you'd call them the returning core. The good news for SLU is that Jalen Duran and Amani Bates are both gone. Thank God, along with Tyler Harris. He was the small guard who couldn't miss from 3 last year, if you remember that Zach. That was
sadly, yes, I do.
Yeah, that was a rough one, and Memphis hung 90 on us last season. So SLU definitely has a chance. I don't think Memphis is as good as last season. I think they're very good. Obviously, they're experienced. They've got good size. They can beat anybody on any night. But SLU's got a chance to win this because they're just not as good as last season.
I think we should win this one. I think we should win this one. I think more so than say if we're gonna put Auburn and Memphis and we're gonna compare the 2 games, Auburn's a much more acceptable one to drop than Memphis here.
Do we have any idea of what Vegas thinks of this one yet? I'm kind of curious to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I quit gambling, by the way.
That's good. I think, yeah, I don't do it at all, but I'm just kind of curious because I do think this is one where SLU's better this season. I think Memphis is not quite as talented. Bates and Duran are both NBA talents. They had a couple other guys last year who went pro.
Only till tomorrow. They only have till tomorrow's game out on DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what this one looks like, but regardless, I think it's a good opportunity. And speaking of good opportunities, Maryland is a team that is picked by the Almanac, which we've talked about recently here. To finish 11th in the Big Ten. Now that puts them in kind of the mid tier of the Big Ten. They're still a Big Ten team. They've still got talent. They've got a new head coach in Kevin Willard who came over from Seton Hall. He's seen SLU in recent years, but we've got a different roster. So they're 2-0. They've got 2 pretty convincing wins over Niagara, Western Carolina. They've scored 71 in both games, and they've let up about 50 points in each of them. They play Binghamton this week before they head up to Connecticut for the event that we're in. Jameer Young, who's a transfer out of Charlotte, and then Julian Reese, their big man, and Dante Scott were their double-digit scorers in the first 2 games this season. Reese is about the same size as Okoro and averages about 9.5 rebounds a game. They haven't really shot the 3 well so far. They're under 30% from 3, but they are 82% from the free throw line. So pretty effective there. To read what the Almanac says is like, look, new coach, a lot of new pieces, which has been the case as we just spoke about both of the Missouri Valley teams that we faced. Kind of a hard team to predict because they've got some talent. Willard is a good coach. There's definitely the potential to be kind of a 500-ish Big Ten team in conference, and that has been good enough in recent years to get you into the tournament. So they're kind of a fringe tournament team. Maybe if people had to pick them right now, they'd maybe put them in a like an NIT scenario or something like that. But Maryland's a good team, and it's the kind of tier team that SLU has to beat this season.
Mhm.
When we run into power conference teams that are in the middle tier of those conferences, this is where SLU actually says, "Oh no, we are an at-large team. This is the kind of game you got to win." So I think SLU's got to take care of business in this one, and then they'll get the hopefully the winner of Providence and Miami on Sunday.
I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for Tuesday night. It's an 8:00 start. It's a late start. And then of course, Saturday, I believe, is a noon start. And I believe that's on ESPN News. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's noon St. Louis time, ESPN News, KMOX for both of these games. The Memphis game, like you said, is 8 p.m. It's on CBS Sports.
On the women's side of things, the Billikens have struggled and continue to kind of struggle. Well, again, it's going to be a roller coaster. I mean, look back to those Rick Majerus, that first year Rick Majerus. A lot of inexplicable things that's going to happen with a new coach, Peter. But a very wild week for this team.
It was whiplash.
Yes.
It really was.
This whole week has been insane. If you're a fan of all things Billiken,
it's been a lot going on and a lot of emotions and a lot of just all over the place. Yeah, it really it really has. The first game though, Zach, was on Monday the 7th. They lost 64-62 at Indiana State. And it was a weird game. I mean, not to mention that it's not just because it's a 10 a.m. start St. Louis time, 11 a.m. Indiana State is just on the other side of the time zone line there. And as often is the case in morning games, it was a brutal shooting first half for both teams. Nobody could buy a bucket. And then all of a sudden SLU posts a 22-8 third quarter. So this was a really weird one. And they've got this 13-point lead, and then they proceed to kind of cough it up over the course of the fourth quarter. And we talk about whiplash just following the whole SLU athletics program this week, but man, within the course of this game, we were all over the place.
Yeah, it looked like the Billikens were going to win this one. Away, but they cough up a 13-point lead over the course of the fourth. Camry Clegg, 19 points on 7 of 13 shooting, 4 of 8 from 3. Good to see her break out in this one. McMakin was, she wasn't making.
No, no, she was not.
This is. I am going to. We're gonna have to work together here this season, Peter.
Yeah.
Because this name, it's rife for just being beaten like a dead horse when it comes to jokes about whether has a good game or not. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. It really can. And in this one, it was not so good. Pete, they used to have a name for 20 points and 20 missed field goals. And in this one, McMakin had 14 points on 14 missed shots.
Yeah, 4 for 18 from the field.
Yes.
But 20 points and 20 missed field goals in a game used to informally be called an Iverson in the NBA. Somebody who was notorious for his streaky shooting, questionable decision making, but also uncanny ability to lead a team of kind of loosely connected parts to success. So, I think McMakin has a lot of those kind of characteristics from what we've seen in her game so far. She's a chucker, Zach. She is not afraid to shoot. She'll shoot anywhere, anytime, anyhow. And,
I have no idea where else I'm going to get this in, but she also looks like maybe Funke from Arrested Development.
Does have that a little bit,
God,
yeah.
The curly hair and the
I see it. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think more frustrating than her kind of shot selection in this one, which wasn't always great. And then she missed some good shots. In the end of this game, Zach, she had a couple chances to make plays and didn't, and not just forced bad shots, but turned it over. Just in the last seconds of the game here, and that was really tough.
Yeah, Flowers 10 points, 7 blocks, 5 rebounds. Awesome game for her. This game was a bit of a ride and a tough opening loss for the Tillett era.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about McMakin and her shooting when we get to the Northern Iowa game. One of the most bizarre games I've ever witnessed was the 95-38 win versus SIUE on Friday, November 11th. At times I'm watching this game, and SIUE, their offense looked and defense looked like when you watch a movie and they choreograph a turnover or a missed defensive assignment, and like you have to like it's impossible for an elite athlete to do bad on purpose.
Yeah. Right. So it looks awkward.
It looks awkward in every turnover or like every weird mistake by SIUE felt like that. Like it was like they just handed things to SLU at times. It was insane.
Yeah, it made me wonder about the quality of opponent here, and whether there really was that big a gap.
We shot the lights out of the ball though.
That, I mean, sure, that helps, but I don't know. I mean, so SIUE last season 255 in the net rankings, so yeah, clearly a bottom half team, but not like, they're not like in the 300s, like they're not 355. So I don't know. So I thought like it would be kind of an interesting litmus test. Wasn't totally sure like where they were supposed to be in the OVC this season. But man, it just, they had no chance in this game.
Yeah, this was the opposite end of the Iverson spectrum for McMakin.
Yeah.
31 points. When she gets on a roll, man, it's like the Boulder in Indiana Jones. It's not stopping.
That's right. She could have had more too. She only played 24 minutes in this game. 11 of 17 shooting in this one, 5 of 7 from 3, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, and 3 steals, 4 turnovers. Quite a performance here, but I was kind of surprised she didn't play more. But I wonder if like Tillett kind of knows when to yank her and when to kind of let her go. I sort of wondered if there was some minute management going on there. Also the fact that you don't need her on the floor, obviously, much in the fourth quarter when you're leading a game by, 40 or 50, it just doesn't, you just don't need her. So I know that's a factor as well, but she did sit at other times throughout the game that normally you wouldn't see a player, your top scorer who's this hot, sit. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Flowers a double. Go figure. 14 and 13. Kennedy Calhoun had a nice night, Peter.
Yeah, Yuri Collins, 14 assists, but the difference here was she also had 8 turnovers to go with those. Just a really big number there. So she's an interesting player. She's a young guard. I know they're trying to mold her into that point guard of the future for this team. And we're gonna be watching that progress, but not much of a scorer, definitely more of a playmaker. Good to see that paying off in this one. It's when your teammates are hitting shots like this, it's gonna inflate that number for sure.
Billikens had 24 steals in this one, a new record, forced 31 turnovers while having 19. Not the most smooth game on either side. 28 assists for the Billikens. They won the rebounding battle by 16. 95 points is the most they've scored in 5 seasons. I mean, you come from a coach like Lisa Stone. I mean, she's got the Wisconsin pedigree. It kind of, you can connect all the dots, and
Right.
you can understand why maybe we didn't score that many points in a lot of seasons. They turn around and they put up 2 quarters of really solid basketball against Northern Iowa. An 84-64 loss, one that got away from them in the third quarter. Kennedy Calhoun has shown some nice flashes, as you mentioned, at point guard, but it still has a lot of growing to do, I think. With McMakin, we spoke earlier about her volume shooting. The problem with McMakin is she's a volume shooter. That's not the problem. When she chucks, a lot of that are off balance, ugly shots.
Yes.
And I think it's very easy to overreact and to react in general as fans. And as kind of, we're assessing a game based on, it's super easy to tell when she takes a bad shot. She's telegraphing her bad shots for the people at home. And I think that can really affect the way people view her and the way she plays. Like Isabel didn't take bad shots.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Is when you're on, you make those shots and people marvel at, oh my God, she can't miss no matter what she does. But when you're off and you miss those shots, it's, what are you doing? That's a terrible shot. Don't shoot off balance. Don't shoot fading away. Don't shoot falling out of bounds. Like, it's definitely, yeah, she's just that player. Every game we've watched reinforces that.
Yeah. Camry Clegg, 20 points on 6 of 13 from the field, 3 of 10 with 4 assists. That's a nice game. 3 of 10 is one of those numbers
from 3
stats. Yeah, 3 of 10 from 3 is one of those stat lines where you're like, God, they really sucked. And then you do the math and it's 30%, and then you look at like the average for shooting.
Yeah.
But it was a decent game from her. So I mean, again, this is a game against a team like UNI that's got a good pedigree, right? They're 2-0 so far on the season. This game really kind of took a turn for the Billikens off of some made threes. I believe I'm trying to remember who did it. It was either Kaba Lobby or Maya McDermott, who just put up, I think she made 3 threes in a row. And that was kind of the backbreaker for the Billiken women in this one.
I think it was McDermott, because she wound up 5 for 9 from 3 overall.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that it was her. She led them in scoring. UNI is a good team. They were in the 50s in the RPI last season. Really solid. I think they were 22-11 or something like that last year. This was, yeah, I mean, SLU hung with them. It's a road game. It's early in the season. Hung with them for a couple quarters and just slowly came apart in the third, and they didn't have enough left in the tank to come back in the fourth, unfortunately. But there's some bright spots in this one.
Next up, Tuesday the 15th at Missouri State, obviously a perennial MVC contender. Friday the 18th versus Green Bay, and Sunday the 20th versus South Dakota. Really a ton of travel, a ton of games. This South Dakota game will be the return of women's basketball, former women's basketball assistant Ty Margenthaler. So a little subtext there for that one. Back-to-back 3-game weeks to start the season, Peter. Tough scheduling.
It is a tough schedule. I mean, we talked about before that the strength of schedule was the strongest maybe we're ever going to see, or that we've ever seen so far in this program. But it's not just that. It's like, yeah, playing 6 games in 2 weeks is a lot to start the season. That's normally going to be 4 or 5. And half of those are road games. So yeah, it's a challenging schedule, and you hope it just has them battle tested and ready to go in the A10 and not just worn out.
Yep. Volleyball had probably the most Kent Miller-ish weekend of the Kent Miller era. They win 3-0 versus Duquesne Friday the 11th, 25-18, 25-21, 25-18. and then come back the next day and lose 3-1, 17-25, 26-28, 25, 22, and 24-26. Sorry, I when I said 26-28, it threw me off because 26 is more than 20. Never mind. Yeah, again, this is one of those where I think you as a team have one player who can win a game for you, but then if that team figures out how to stop that one player in the second game, you have nothing else to fall back on, and you end up not being able to overcome that. And that's kind of what I mean, we've seen for the last few years with, again, I mentioned it, Maya Taylor, the great, as great as she was, could not carry this team to an A10 championship, and that's not her fault. A10 tournament at Chaffetz, the 18th through the 20th. So had a chance to be as high as a 3 seed, depending on how things broke this weekend. They ended up the 5 seed. They'll take on George Washington, who are the 4 seed on Friday the 18th. Winner will face 1 seed Loyola on Saturday. SIUE faced GW and DC earlier this year, and as we mentioned, lost twice. Other side of the bracket is 3 seed Dayton and 6 seed VCU. Winner will have 2 seed Davidson. Those are 2 teams at the 1 and 2 seed that will, for the virtue of Loyola just joining, we've never seen have a 1 seed, and Davidson's always just kind of been a middling
right
since they joined. So
do you know, does this tournament also reseed based on okay, all right, yeah, I put it in the notes as being a fixed bracket and wasn't entirely sure. The way, like we talked about, SIUE might have a 3 seed but they needed, you know, I think they needed George Washington to lose, and then they needed Dayton to lose twice, and neither of those things happened. GW had the tiebreaker, even if SIUE had won today. So even if they did beat Duquesne today, they still would have been the 5 seed. And 4 seed, 5 seed, same thing. They're playing at home in this tournament regardless. So not a big difference, but that, I think the Duquesne game was pride more than anything else.
And knowing this team, they'll probably go and win the tournament.
Hey, I'll take that.
I would take it too. Cross country, just real quick, Pete, run us down kind of what happened.
They ran in the Midwest Regionals on Friday the 11th.
It's the NCAA Midwest Regionals.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. The men finished 19th out of 27. Toby Gillen placed 36th overall in his debut at regionals with a time of 30:16 in the men's 10K. That was the 4th highest finish for a freshman at the event. The women came in 32nd out of 33 teams. And then the NCAA championships are on the 19th. I don't think we'll have anybody in this, Zach, but correct me if I'm wrong. Okay.
I don't believe so either.
Okay. So that wraps up the season then for cross country, but track gets indoor track gets their winter season going here in early December.
NCAA signing period opened up on the 9th. Pete, Sion Medley and Brock Weiss signed with men's basketball. Baseball signed a 7-man class. Softball 6. Women's basketball, I'm guessing we will see more as we move on. But again, Rebecca Tillett, new and still trying to get her footing in, I think. Women's soccer has 10 commitments, and the men's soccer team, number 1 ranked recruiting class in the nation. Volleyball signed a couple. I saw a couple on their Instagram. We'll see what happens after the season's over with the coaching staff. But yeah, Pete, this was a long one. This was probably an hour, and this might have been close to 2 hours.
This was a big one. We had a lot to say about the soccer teams in this one. Unfortunately, we only have one soccer team to talk about moving forward. But, now with soccer playoffs and basketball season underway, this is like the most that we could possibly be talking about, at any given time.
I would much rather have 2 unbelievable soccer teams to talk about than like do a bit where we pick like a terrible Division I football team and just pretend that we're fans on the show, like just to fill airtime.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, I didn't, I wish that we still had women's soccer to talk about, but we won't anymore.
But I am glad that my Sundays are now like available during the day. That's about the only positive that I'm not rushing out the door every day. So
I'll be neglecting my children slightly less than before, but yeah, they
kids are malleable. They'll figure it out.
They won't remember it. I say to myself, as you know, they're in therapy 3 decades from now or something.
That's all right.
But
Save up
that's
for
all
that.
right.
Do you even save up for that or college? One of the two.
Or both. Yeah.
Well, that wraps up the jam-packed week in Billiken athletics. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod. At Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, and on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. Of course, if you have a suggestion for our show, go ahead and give us a shout out or a shout. Sorry. Please go subscribe to the show on all platforms. If you haven't left a review, drop us 5 stars. And as always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.